Hello YouTube. I've seen that there are several videos on YouTube showing the use of various chemicals and acids to remove rust from metal, including electrolysis tanks and even the use of molasses, which seems to work quite well. But I've noticed that there aren't any videos showing the use of the technique that I use. So I thought I would put it out there, and this would allow people to give it a try and see if it can work okay for them. Let me start by saying first that using this chemical, evaporust, is my preferred technique. It's very safe and it's non-toxic, and it works very, very well. The problem is that it's actually quite expensive, so I only use it to remove rust from relatively small metal tools and parts. Lately I've been restoring antique lanterns and kerosene heaters, and for some of those parts evaporust can work quite well. For much larger parts like kerosene heater bodies or entire lanterns, I've been using pH minus, and this is used to lower the pH in swimming pools and spas, and it's actually sodium bisulfate. In this case it comes in a powder. It's quite easy to mix up. It's relatively safe, although it can be irritating to your skin if you get it on your hands and so on. So I tend to wear gloves, and I will wear a face shield just in case you wouldn't want to get it in your eyes. It's quite easy to mix up, as I said, and I've seen people use anywhere from half a cup of the powder to up to 3 cups in 5 gallons of water, or 20 liters. And I typically use 2 cups in 5 gallons. And you can make large quantities of it and immerse entire lanterns, in my case, or kerosene heater parts in a large container. Recently I've mixed up a Rubbermaid container. This holds about 68 liters, and I can immerse some pretty large parts in here. I've been using it actually for an entire month, over and over again, for quite a lot of parts and tools. And this is what I'm using today. So now I have the top portion of a kerosene heater. This is from a Perfection heater, approximately 1915, and it's quite rusty. On the back it actually has a lot of soot, and I'm in the process of restoring it. So it's quite simple. You can take this piece of metal and immerse it directly in the sodium bisulfate solution. So just put it right in, let it soak, and there we go. And I usually let them soak overnight, and if it's extremely rusty, maybe 24 hours. And I usually take it out after about 12 hours, and I'll check it and see how it's going. Sometimes that's enough, and then if not, I'll leave it in for another 12 hours and then check it again. This usually works quite well. After soaking, usually just a sponge, like a kitchen sponge, can wipe away the remaining rust. It's quite easy, and you can actually see the bare metal. It's not a good idea to leave metals in there longer than that, because I've noticed that it can actually start to cause a little bit of pitting if you leave it in for, say, 2 days. But that's usually not necessary. And once you get the bare metal, the major problem after that is actually flash rust. And that's something that I've been trying to deal with. How to stop the flash rust from forming right after you wash off the acid. And if anyone has any ideas that can help me out with this, I'd really appreciate it. At the moment, I've been immediately covering it in WD-40, which does stop the flash rust, but if you want to paint or do something later to the metal, you have to remove the WD-40, and this can pose a challenge. Alright, so here's the next day, and I've just taken it out of the acid. I haven't washed it off, so it still has acid on it. And I'm just having a look at it. I'm going to take a regular sponge and basically just try to wipe it off a little bit and see how much rust there is left. And if it looks too bad, then I'll put it back in. Okay, so here it is after some scrubbing with the kitchen sponge. And actually on this side, I went over it a little bit with some fine steel wool, just for comparison. And what I'm seeing here is, I think that's likely some remnants of enameling that was on the top. And you can actually see it. Let's see. You can see it around the edge. There's some remnants of some enameling that was on the top. But the rust is largely gone. You should note that this acid actually does eat enameling, and I've seen that happen before. It can take it right off. So, but I think this is actually some leftover enameling, and the rust is largely gone. On the other side, again, you can see the bare metal underneath. In the middle, there is actually a fair amount of soot, and again, I think some enameling that was on the inside. But the rust is largely gone. I think what I'm going to do, I can leave it in for a little longer, just because I'm actually on my way out somewhere, and I might come back later on tonight and clean it up. Maybe quickly go over it again with some light steel wool. But it really doesn't take a lot of effort to remove whatever rust is there. It really just wipes right off. Then I'm probably going to coat it with WD-40 and let it sit until I'm ready to actually paint it. At which point I think I'll be removing the WD-40 with a strong solution of trisodium phosphate degreaser, and then I'll dry it off quickly and hope for the best regarding flash rust. So, in summary, I think this pH minus technique is an inexpensive alternative to other techniques like derusting chemicals or electrolysis tanks. It's widely available and relatively inexpensive, and I've used it several times. The only problem I've had is the formation of flash rust after everything is over. It's not a huge problem if you're going to paint, but I'd appreciate hearing your comments on how other people deal with flash rust. There's surprisingly few videos talking about it on YouTube. The molasses bath is another technique which seems to work, although it can take, I think, much longer. One problem I've heard with it is that if you leave it for quite a while, the molasses can actually start to ferment, and then it becomes very sticky and smelly. That's what I've heard from some people. And here I've got the rest of the heater parts ready to go into the acid bath. So let me know what you think of this technique. Thank you.